Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live, talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Hey, how you doing? Welcome to the show. And, oops, I'm getting my repetition thing going here. Okay. It's December, whatever the hell, day after Pearl Harbor Day, 8th. And the year, however, is 2021. Oh, guys, other than the Fox Christmas tree going up in flames, I have nothing great to report. I am sorry. What I have are questions. I realize I have so many questions, and they seem almost childlike, because, you know, children ask questions that are often very hard to answer. And the reason they're hard to answer often is because the question itself suggests that the answer is not right. Know what I mean? I didn't do a very good job explaining that. I think one of the most humbling parts of parenting is when you get on the receiving end of one of those questions. Why is something like it is? Because the answer, the real answer is often because things are not as they should be, because people can be horrible, and it's the kind of thing you don't want to say to a child. I was always at a total loss for words with so many questions that my kid asked me. And I wondered, how do other parents have immediately something brilliant, informative, and comforting to say at just the right language level? Because I sure as hell didn't. I always opted for truth. I thought, I'll just tell him what I think of as the truth. If he can't handle it, he'll forget about it. If it's not age appropriate, it'll just go into the dustbin of his memory. I have no idea. But the questions I have now sound like those childlike questions. Here's one. Why, if there are people serving life sentences all across this country for murder, who never held the gun or the knife, who may not have even been in the building, or maybe waiting in the getaway car. You know what I mean. There's many, 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 many cases. The Pittsburgh author John Weidman's brother, famously, spent almost his entire life, just got out, almost his entire life in Western Penitentiary because a burglary that he was party to, but in the car, resulted in a death, a murder committed by somebody else. But the way the law is if you're part of the group that was intent on doing this crime and a death results, then you are every bit as guilty as the person who actually was there and pulled the trigger. You're a murderer. So here's my question. Why if we know there are 4 dead, 4 murdered children in that school in Michigan, and we know that the parents of the kid who pulled the trigger bought him the gun, never secured the gun, gave it to the kid. When they were told by the school that the kid was exhibiting signs of concern, like drawing bloody pictures in class, looking up where to get ammunition in class, and they're called in, they laugh it off. And they, in fact, even say, no, we're not taking him home. Let him go back to class. This is ridiculous. And then an hour later, 4 are dead. How is that not the same as what so many people are doing, that is aiding and abetting murder? And everybody is going berserk. Well, this is not going to fly. This has never been done. Charging the parents. This has never been done. As if all of a sudden parents have nothing whatsoever to do with their children, especially these parents. How are they not, by virtue of the same laws that put so many people, black people, in jail for their lives, how are these 2 in Michigan not facing that same kind of jeopardy? Because they are not. They are astonishingly facing some kind of jeopardy. They have been charged, which is what's making everybody swoon. Never been done. I don't think it's going to fly. 4 dead children. Why? That's my question. Why? Isn't that the same as what, like, put Weidman's brother in Western Penn for his life? He didn't kill. He didn't pull a trigger. He made some bad choices. Well, I think so did they. So did they. So that's one question that occurred to me. Here's another, and I swear I really don't know. When I saw the headlines, it was enough. I couldn't read the story. Self-protection. You may have read that there was, the Justice Department had been looking into perhaps reopening the case of the brutal lynching of a black child, Emmett Till. Now that seems like ancient history, I suppose. But they were looking into it because, as it turns out, I think the woman who falsely charged Emmett Till for what? Ogling her or something? Is that what he did? Looking at her, she found in a lascivious kind of way, is still alive. She's lived a long life. I guess she's in her 80s. And she apparently said that Emmett Till hadn't done that. later, you know, after Emmett Till's been in his grave for God knows how long, and she's still alive. Nobody went to jail. Nobody. And there was this headline that said Justice Department closes Emmett Till investigation without charges. And the Justice Department has said they couldn't find enough evidence. But if the main witness, the woman whose lie causes the death, the brutal, terroristic death of that child, visiting from the north, not knowing that little black boys can't even look in the direction of a fair-haired white woman when you're visiting the South. Now, maybe it's true. They figured the way things work, we're never going to get a conviction. But why not try? Why not haul that 80-something-year-old friggin' murdering white woman into court? They do it to all those people who, in their 90s, who aided and abetted the murder of tens of thousands in the Holocaust. Why not this woman? I was wondering, would there have been concerns about the optics? Feds go after little old white lady in a case that's 70 years old? I don't know. But that's another question I have. I've been burdened by questions. And here's another. Why? When there are some people, mostly poor and people of color, rotting in our jails for having shoplifted, let's make it big, shoplifted $60 worth of merchandise. And that's after they had done 2 other such horrendous crimes. And so 3 strikes, you're out. They're doing life, okay? The total value of all the goods that they lifted without any weapons involved, stuff they took, maybe, let's give it $260, okay, worth of stuff. And they're spending their lives in jail. Because obviously they're hardened criminals. Well, then why, when an old white guy steals stuff valued at $70 million, and he does it, this is an international crime wave. Because this guy was hanging on to over 180 stolen historical artifacts, relics, priceless, really, but prices get put on them. Police all over the world were working on this case for 4 years. They found that this guy had smuggled all of this loot from 11 countries. Just so he like a modern day Midas, could have it in his house. Yeah. Well, that is a story. Actually, it's in today's New York Times. Headline, a billionaire gives up looted relics worth $70 million. Okay, so this guy steals $70 million worth of stuff, and is he going to prison? Know what he had to do? He had to give it all back. And he had to promise never to try to illicitly get his hands on any more extraordinary pieces of antiquity. That's his punishment. 70 million. And I want to say, why? I have some callers. Hello, caller. Go ahead, please. Hello?
Lynn?
Yes.
Okay. While I am loath to pick on schools and the enormity of what they have to deal with these days, the other angle on this that I have not heard many people talk about at all is the school's culpability in this situation. I mean, the parents, to me, that's obvious. But when you, and I'm telling you this as a clinical social worker who has worked in many schools and hospitals over my career and so on, the fact that this kid is sitting there in the office, apparently, as the sequence goes, having already seen the pictures that he drew, the comments that he made about voices, and again, whether any of that's true or not, who knows? But, you know, if this were 1971, you could almost excuse the school for not pursuing any other action when they have the kid sitting in front of them. The fact that this is 50 years later and everything that we have lived through, what kind of bubble could this school district could have been existing in to not, at the very least, pull in a counselor, a school social worker, whatever, to have a discussion with this boy, and also just simply ask him to empty his backpack in the office while they're having the discussion. But they have this kid with pictures, with comments, with searching for ammunition online while in class. And then they have a discussion and basically, apparently, tell the parents that what they're supposed to do is have him evaluated within 48 hours or whatever, get mental health treatment. To me, that is gross irresponsibility. That's all.
Is it criminal?
Well, that's the question. I mean, I think it's a specious argument that the district attorney, as much as I applaud her trying to make the case, I think it's going to be questionable whether it even, goes very far from the parents' end, let alone the school end. But I'm certainly glad she's pushing the envelope with it.
I am too. And thank you. Thank you for a great call. I appreciate it.
Take care. Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye. Yeah. Why would not? The parents got the last word. School wanted them to take him home. They said no. The school acquiesces with what they already knew. Yeah, and an hour later, all those lives destroyed. I know hindsight always 2020, as they say, but living in the United States in 2021, after how many school shootings since Columbine? And you let that kid go back to class. As the caller said, you don't look in his backpack, you don't look in his locker. Wow. 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 Questions. Why? Is there another caller there? Hello?
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Yes. Hey, Lynn. I don't know if you read this story or not. Kind of rank. I want to warn you, but the news media say. I guess you know the sexual position 69. Well, I guess it's been officially changed to 96 because of the cost of living, cost of eating out has gone up.
And okay, what brilliant comedian did that? This is not, huh?
I just read that on the internet. That's why I told you it. But it's
okay. All
anyway. Right. Okay. Anyway.
All right, you.
Yeah, I know. It was a bad joke. But what I was going to say is, why these people, like you said about that kid, now everybody, it seems like the Republican Party is going to attack the parents. You know what I mean? It just seems that way.
Yeah.
Because that's what they do.
Yep. I don't, I mean, our so-called justice system is not a system of justice. It is not. Justice has often next to nothing to do with it.
It's terrible. And
terrible.
They keep blocking Biden on all these vaccines just to slow down the process, which is so ridiculous. These judges are appointed by Trump. I don't get it.
I hear you. All right, you take your lame jokes and be gone.
I didn't write it.
Well, yeah, but
I read on the internet. I didn't know if you read it.
All right.
Oh, yeah. Well, I've heard worse on your show. So.
Okay.
Okay. See you later.
All righty. Yeah. Bye-bye. Bye. All right. Some more whys. I understand the, is it the House? Somebody. The Congress just passed the defense budget. Closing in on $1 trillion or something. It's bigger than last year's budget. They're bigger every year. So my question is, why, after the United States pulled out of Afghanistan and has ended the longest war in American history, why does the defense budget will go up? And why do you not ever hear, when it's the defense budget, the same kind of concern by the fiscal conservative crowd of the cost of this is too expensive? Why don't you hear that? If you want to give like a few million to some program that's going to benefit some poor folks, the hand wringing. Too expensive. If you want to do something about the high cost of prescription drugs or college debt forgiveness or family leave policies or anything that helps children and families and homeless people and old people. We can't afford that. So why? When it comes to money that will go, and we know the Pentagon wastes, will go to weapons never used, to any little thing that's got the generals excited about possibilities of war in the future. Money will come in. Yeah. Why? And I also want to point something out after Biden and Putin spoke yesterday. We are not, the United States, by design, are no longer presenting a macho figure to the world. Donald Trump started pulling, wanted to pull troops out of everywhere. And he knew that a lot of Americans are saying, why are we the policemen of the world? Why do we have to pay for that? Why can't these other countries step up and defend themselves? To hell with this. And that resonates. And then when Joe Biden comes in, he continues. He does what Trump didn't do. He pulls them out. And so the world watching knows that the American people, just as Trump knew and Biden knew, the American people have no stomach anymore for all these damn wars, which we never seem to win. Never. And David Leonhardt points out that given that obvious fact that America's done with it, then why should China worry that the U.S. will go to war? They grab Taiwan. Or totally clamp down on Hong Kong. U.S. is going to go to war? No. And why would Vladimir Putin not have his army arrayed along that long, long border with Ukraine? It's not like he's doing it in the stealth of night. This is very open. Talking to the American president yesterday, the American president said, if you do that, we'll have banks close down on you. We won't fire a shot, but we'll try to hurt you economically because we have no for war anymore. So the United States, by now pulling back in this way, has lost the leverage of intimidation, of using the biggest military in the world, which is obviously still ours. We're now into stern warnings. But make no mistake that Russia and China's increasing shows of aggression is a direct result of their acknowledgement that the United States is in a weaker position by its own design. And it reminded me of a tweet that I saw, which I thought, oh boy, yeah, that is absolutely right on the money. And it was about the fact that while so many of us Americans are exhausted and are tuning out, can't take it anymore, China, Russia are watching us more intently than we watching ourselves. And they are licking their chops because they both saw how easy it is. Just do a little bit of disinformation, a little bit of work here and there, and you can turn Americans on each other with the willingness of one of its major parties to work with you on it. You can help destroy trust in their electoral system. You can have Americans destroy themselves from within. You don't need to make war because the Americans, it turns out, will destroy themselves. If anybody disagrees with that, I'd love to hear your argument, because that's the truth. That's the truth. Hey, little comic relief. So I understand somebody's been arrested for, before I get up on this, we got a call, and let's go right to the phones. Hello.
Hey, Lynn, it's Mike in USC.
Hey.
So just backtrack a little bit about government contracts and why they can't say, we're no longer at war, so why do we still need money? The first part is because business is involved. So the government says, I'll just take this as an example, excuse me, we'll need 400,000 MREs, meals ready to eat, for the next 5 years. And we've awarded that contract to Del Monte Foods. The war is over. They don't need 400,000 of them anymore. But Del Monte Foods still has a contract with them. Now, a year later,
yeah.
Well, it depends how it's written. So all the contracts I've been on, you get a yearly renew. And so when that contract is for renew, they can get rid of that contract. But it's not as simple as, okay, we don't need this anymore, thanks. It's not like ordering things off of Amazon. You're in an agreement with a company to provide this service for the government. And you can't all of a sudden say, no, we're going to void these contracts. I mean, you could, but then people would be less likely to get into business with the government. Also, part of this addition is that the military is getting a 3.5% increase, and they should. Service people, particularly privates and specialists and all the people down at the bottom, make really not a lot of money, $16,000, $17,000, $20,000 to risk their lives. And in Pittsburgh, that might be a livable wage, but, you know, try going to California and living on that. So that's part of the increase too, is that finally, maybe that's the military people, service people will get a bump in pay. The 3% really doesn't give them on par with, you know, risking their lives. So it's complicated, but it's really because business is involved. Before, during World War II, the government just made specialists make meals ready to eat. So when you didn't need them anymore, you just stopped making them. But, you know, that's not the way things work anymore. And also, the power brokers are the ones that are saying, you can't get rid of our contract, you know.
Right.
So rich people, again, rich people.
Well, again, right. And a government that serves the interests of rich people and their corporations, right?
Right. And via stock. So if I had stock in General Dynamics and then they lose all their contracts, the stock goes down, and me as a rich person who just sits back and watches my portfolio grow doesn't get any income, and so that's their complaint. And it's complicated. Nothing in the military or government is easy, and it's designed to be that way. So
you know,
So anybody like Dr. Oz, who says I can be a senator because I was on a talk show, has no concept of how complicated the government is. And it's why we got Donald Trump and why we're in the mess we're in, because people think, hey, it's just like a business. No, it is not just like a business.
No, it definitely is not. And has always been a specious argument. And by the way, this is a country, let's be clear. So when the military budget goes up and people say it's because we're finally going to give a measly 3% raise to some of the people who are actually risking their lives, the reality is that most of that money has nothing to do with those poor folks. Nothing to do with it. And this is a country in which the pay of chief executives has risen almost 1,000% since 1978. The typical American worker's pay in that same period, 12%.
But Lynn, those rich people deserve it. The poor people, it's their fault that they're poor. They should have studied harder in school. They should have taken more risks. They shouldn't have had babies out of wedlock. It's their fault that we haven't all risen to Jeff Bezos' level of wealth.
Yeah, sure. Unbelievable. All right, well, thank you. God knows when it comes to the labyrinth and horror of American governance, you have some experience. I thank you for that.
Sure. Anytime.
Bye. Nice to hear from you. Bye. No, I was going to share with you before the call that the one thing that, you know, did make me laugh today was that wonderful visual of Fox's Christmas tree on fire. And I understand some guy has been arrested. But as soon as that thing got posted on Twitter, all hell breaks loose. And what happens is you see there are so many people out there who are they're funny. So they respond in ways that make you laugh. And I had a lot of laughs this morning watching some of the Twitter comments with the video of the Christmas tree ablaze, such as, I may be an atheist, but I know a sign from God when I see one. Or, oh my God, someone call the fire department in a week or two. Here's another. Aha, the Jewish space lasers have made the first strike in the war on Christmas. Yeah. I don't know how I don't have the energy or the stomach to turn on Fox to see how they're dealing with this. But if it's going to be, war, and then, there's people saying it's a false flag operation. It's there's just, and it doesn't matter. Reality doesn't matter anymore. So Fox will spin it however they want. Others will have some fun with it. Others will be very serious and decry it. I saw one and I forgot exactly what it said, but it was a takeoff on, the only thing that stops a man with a gun is another man with a gun. Somebody suggesting, quick, find another guy with a lit match. God. It's odd to be alive and witnessing in real time this dissolution. It's something I don't think many of us, if any, thought we would see. And it's sobering and frightening and all those things, but every once in a while, you can laugh. Because we are, as a nation, beyond parody now. Nowhere near parity, but beyond parody. I mentioned the other day that I had seen that leghorn senator from Louisiana, whose name happens to be John Kennedy, which when I first started hearing about him, I got so mixed up. What? John Kennedy said what? He's not those Kennedys. And he was questioning one of Biden's nominees who Biden picked for a major banking regulating job. And man, this guy, Kennedy, was drilling her. Turns out she was born, I thought it was China. Not, she was born in Russia, in the Soviet Union. She was born in the Soviet Union, the commie Soviet Union. And he was asking her if she had ever been a member of a communist group. It was so bizarre. It was like, wait a minute. The McCarthy hearings are back. Look at this. And the reality is that this woman, and he knew about this because the very helpful Wall Street Journal editorial page had suggested very darkly that this woman, whose last name is Omarova, that her Soviet childhood was a clear indication that she could not be trusted, especially with capitalist banking regulations. And so, man, they went after her. And Kennedy was like asking, and so you joined a communist youth group? Well, it's not you joined, you had to. It's not like, it's as if Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts in America was not something that was, voluntary. It was mandatory. She said, yes, as a child, before my parents got us the hell out. I was in that little Soviet children group. And did you ever resign? And, no. Her parents and she left the country. She actually said at one point, I don't know, because she's a professor somewhere, I really don't know whether to call you professor or comrade. Our own Senator, Patrick effing Toomey, said that her ideas were radical for America's financial system. So what has changed? She was born in the Soviet Union, and consequently, even though she's got the skills, the qualities, the smarts, all of that, she cannot serve because she cannot be trusted. It's actually because she's for some regulation. And you don't have to be born in the Soviet Union and have been in, Soviet youth groups to favor that position. Well, it shouldn't surprise you if you didn't know it, that she wrote a letter to the White House and the president saying she was resigning from consideration because it was no longer tenable for her to seek the position, because clearly she wasn't going to be. She wasn't going to get through. Hey, I want to stop right there and ask you a question. When I said she wasn't going to be, and then I stopped and went back and said she wasn't going to get through, how many of you immediately recognized that I'd hit that horrible wall that happens to you as you get older, where you couldn't think of the word? Now, I realize now the word I really couldn't find was confirmed. She withdrew because she knew she would not be confirmed. But as I spoke to you, I said she withdrew because she wasn't going to be, and then I stopped because the word wasn't there. And so I came up with another. I backed up and did it in a different way. And it occurred to me that I'm sure that with me, listening to me now in my dotage, that the more empathetic of you often feel for me, because you know how I speak and you can hear that pause where I'm like rifling through all the gray matter in my head. I'm looking desperately for a simple word that I know, and it is eluding me. And I know it happens to us all, but it does happen more as you age. And talking extemporaneously in front of an audience, I'm bound to be in that position quite often. And it ain't humiliating enough for me to stop, but I just want you to know, and I want to thank those of you who are clueless about it. And I want to also thank those of you who empathize and sympathize and can see it coming way before, and probably are thinking, "Oh, come on, Lynn," and you're like screaming the word at me, but I can't hear you. I just want to say that. That's an aside. A truly frightening thing I saw. Let me get it here. The horrible humans. The totally. I mean, there's. Oh God. Matt Gaetz, flanked by Marjorie Taylor Greene, Gosar, and Boebert. A quartet so devoid of any redeeming qualities. Anyway. Matt Gaetz, lest you think this can't happen, I just want to say, Matt Gaetz has publicly said get it here. I had it on my phone. Matt Gaetz says that if the Republicans win back the House next year, is certainly possible. People would say probable with the gerrymandering going on. He will personally move to install as Speaker of the House, not the guy who wants the job, McCarthy, but Donald Trump. And it turns out, in fact, you don't have to be a member of the House, an elected member of the House, to be named the Speaker. I don't know how often that ever happened, if it ever did. So he says he's going to bring Donald Trump in as Speaker, and that'll be the end of that. Everything that you hear like that just sounds so out of left field, so impossible, so you got to be kidding me. We now know you can't brush off, brush away, laugh. Ha! Remember just a few years ago when you laughed about QAnon? They believe what? Or the guy going into the pizza place looking for Hillary Clinton's sex trafficked children. You remember those sweet innocent days of yore? Incredible. Incredible. Oh, guys. All right. What do I got here? So Kellogg's workers who've been striking in the United States, that's Kellogg's cereal, and I suppose other stuff. I don't know what else they make. They've rejected the latest contract and seeing a lot of articles saying this shows the power of labor now. Well, I don't know, since Kellogg's has now said, fine, screw you. We're installing in your place replacement workers. They're saying the job market is so tight that labor has this. And Kellogg's is saying, you're done. Okay, goodbye. We're done negotiating. It's not that many. It's like 1,200 strikers at a number of plants throughout the country, one here in Pennsylvania, not sure where. And I just want to say that to you, that if in fact a company, which, and again, remember what American workers get paid. And remember, I don't know what exactly the CEO of Kellogg's made last year, just keeping that unbelievable disparity and chasm in front of you. One thing I would do if I ate cereal would be to not buy any Kellogg product. I don't care if that's your cereal for the last 50 years of your life, but I gotta have my Frosted Flakes. I don't care. I would stop. Caller, well, screw you. I'm doing a show. Hello? Is someone there? I'm sorry. Hello?
Yeah. Hi. You went dead for a while. Yeah, you were.
Well, because some idiot called my phone with which I'm connected to the show. That's never happened, has it? There's always, always something to happen, but that one I don't remember before. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, I wish that was the biggest thing we could complain about today.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting exhausted being outraged, aren't you?
Well, of course. And that's what happens. People just tune out. I know, but the other side ain't tuning out. They got momentum. They got passion, which is why we're going to get our clocks cleaned.
Isn't that unique in the history of humanity? I mean, eventually people don't. I'm not. But what I'm saying is, eventually, don't people like get fed up and they fight for what they believe in, or is their passion, I guess, is higher than our passion? I guess. Well,
I think what happens is we are, despite the fact that we are a country in which a lot of people are living paycheck to paycheck and all that, we are about as fat and comfortable a nation as has ever existed.
So we just need to be really pushed to our limits before we.
Well, no. So we're not. We're just not. We're not. And then, excuse me, when things go wrong, and we do feel, we immediately turn into, Trump's base. That's what Americans do. They start looking for a scapegoat, and they decide that democracy doesn't work, and so they go full fascist. That's what America was always threatening to do, and we've always had that solid 30 or 40% of Americans who really didn't buy in to this idea of equality.
Well, that's what I guess throws me, because I, like you were saying earlier, and this was really, struck a chord with me when you said we used to laugh at QAnon. And I mean, I remember when Trump was in the primaries in 2016 and at the end of 15, it's like, I mean, I was saying, why are people paying attention to this guy? This is a joke. Right. And boy, was I in for a surprise.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, right. And I think you said this before, MSNBC and CNN are just as guilty as Fox News and all those other crazy people. They just love the viewership and the publicity.
They love the circus because they all made money, and they're still loving the circus. I remember the head of CBS at one point when Trump started running. Was that Leslie Moonves at the time?
Oh, yeah.
He flat out saying, I mean, this might be bad for the country, but it sure as hell is great for us. Yeah. Well, that's just the way it is. I mean, that's the way it is. And I don't know how many different ways I can say it.
Well, this time of year, I mean, you said something the other day that I took to heart, and I'm sure it's not new. I guess I hadn't remembered it before, but it's perfect. Because you see all the Christ back in Christmas signs. I think you said we were quoting somebody, I can't remember. I'd like to see Christ be put back in Christians or something like that. And that really strikes a chord with me, because back when I was a Christian, when I was in the church I was raised in, I mean, this type of behavior that is being exhibited by our leaders, the leaders of our country, is, I don't think would be so, it's not just being accepted, it's being exhorted. It's being, this is who we are. It's like these people in the House, and that woman calling these other House these congressmen calling them Islamic terrorists. I mean, who talks that way? I mean, and now it's like the norm, and I'm like, no, that's not who we are. But I guess it is. Yeah,
I hear you. I know. It's
exhausting me, is what I say. It's just
okay. I know, of course. It's exhausting you. Have you seen America's blood pressure is way up, especially women's? It's killing us. I mean, this is just, it's making us sick, which is why people do tune out. But tuning out could make us dead. I mean, I don't know what else. But hey, thank you for the call. It's we're out of time here.
Unfortunately, we're preaching to the choir these days because we don't listen to each other.
That's
so,
right.
all right. Well,
that's right.
I try to enjoy the rest of your day.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Yeah. Well, I remember with Bill Clinton, they always used to say he compartmentalizes his life. So he's able, to be this charming, this, and then a strong leader, and this, and then he's able to, screw around on his wife, and then he's able to, say, do this. And he was able to, keep parts of his life in different compartments. That's a great little trick if you can do it. I can't. And I suspect that people who can end up being a little bit, I don't know, like Bill Clinton. I guess I'm done, guys. More ways than one. All right. I do intend to attempt to enjoy the rest of my day, and I hope you do as well. Okay? I'll talk at you again tomorrow. Toodaloo.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.